welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this interview is Daryl Geffken, who is running for Spokane District 81 School Board, Position 3.
Correct.
Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you so much for having me, Sue. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about a little bit about you and tell me about where you grew up and went to school.
Absolutely. I've grown up a lot of different places. I'm living in the 20th residence if you count something over 6 months. So I was born in South Jersey. I have gone up and down the eastern seaboard. In 1984, made a cross-country trip with my mom and stepdad, our boyfriend at the time, and we moved to Seattle, and that's where I went to junior high and high school. Went back east for school, came back and transferred back, went to Edmonds Community College for an AA, ended up going to University of Washington and working at Starbucks. That's where I met my wife, so true Seattle story in that regard. And we went to, we lived on Queen Anne, we went to Portland, and then we went to Bremerton, and then in 2004, moved over to Spokane, and that is where we are.
Well, what drew you here?
Well, my wife grew up in Spokane.
Okay.
So it was just a matter of time. We got married in 1997, and she really enjoyed it. And it grew on me just in a remarkable way. And when we got married and we started thinking about having kids, this is the place to be.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So in all that traveling up and down the eastern seaboard, my father grew up in New Jersey, so I've got a little bit of familiarity.
I'm sorry, but
Well.
No.
So in your time there, was there any opportunity for a first job or some interesting anecdote you like to tell people?
Yeah, my first job was actually with the Seattle Mariners.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was heavy into theater in high school, and the Mariners at that time wanted to have what was called Mariners greeters, and we wore these old Ebbets Field flannel uniforms and met people at the gate, and gave them the stats on what was going on. My number was 24, if that has any significance to you. So Ken Griffey Jr. was number 24 at that point, so he would stop and roll down his window and give me a hard time about that. But that was actually my first job in high school. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Got to see behind the scenes in the Mariners organization and free tickets. So that's just fantastic.
Sounds like an ideal first job for a high school
It
kid.
was great.
Yeah. Oh. So other travels that you've had an opportunity to observe.
Yeah.
Things that you bring back with you to
Yeah,
Spokane.
no, for sure. My junior year of high school, after summer, I went and did a homestay program in Japan. Visited the Hiroshima Memorial, and that absolutely floored me. It rocked my world in quite a bit. And then didn't do a whole lot of travel in terms of like trips, like vacation trips. So my next one was actually hosting, I was a leader with 32 teenagers from all over the United States, and we went to Kenya. And we built a library for secondary school, and then did some medical, clinical work as well. So I've been there. When we got married, went to Scotland because I'm Scottish, and had a blast. And since then, we've traveled all over. So I think I've been to 5 continents. A lot of them are service trips, which has been pretty great, and just getting to get a better sense of just different cultures and really take that on. It's been amazing.
Is there something that you draw from those trips that you apply to?
Absolutely.
To
There's this phrase, and it says, "Never forget what it was like on the other side."
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the idea of basically saying, never forget what it is that you've encountered with other people. And another way to say that maybe is to become a collector of stories. A lot of service trips that I was able to do when I was in middle school ministry is I brought Spokane middle schoolers down to San Francisco for a week. Mm-hmm. And we would go and we would sit with homeless people and we would prepare lunch and we would just talk to them and listen to their stories. And the whole job with that was, as a collector of someone's story, I would sit down, I would be invited into your living room, and I would do as best as I could to get rid of my own personal monologue, what I was going to say next. Mm-hmm. And from that, actually just try to listen, try to take that on and really just jump into that story and try to appreciate the perspective from which the other person's coming.
Well, that's a very interesting background. I'd love to talk to you some more about that. But I want to ask you then, so with all of that, what drew you to file to run for a post on the school board?
I think actually one of the listening pieces was the thing that drew me to do that. I felt as though, it all started as it would in a nuclear sense, just our family saying, we've got questions. We're not sure that those questions are being heard in the way that were maybe intending to have them. So the conversation wasn't really there. And that was a little bit frustrating. I think then I started to look, and as a systems guy, I was looking and saying, I would have liked to have seen a different type of response, or maybe a more proactive response than a couple of the other things that were going on. So it grew out of dissatisfaction, but really what it's morphed into is this idea of saying, I really am truly a listener. And so to sit down with people and say, if you sit down and you say, I have a better idea than you, then the person across the table is going to say, actually, I've got a better idea than you. And then that's just going to do this. And so for me to say that the true art is listening to people and what they have to say, all people, all the constituents, and then to say, how might I add to the conversation so it will move us forward?
Okay.
So it's morphed, but it's been a really interesting journey.
But that's a good thing.
It is.
It is. So this is a good time to ask you that final wrap-up question.
Yeah.
Tell people why they should vote for Daryl Geffken for
Absolutely.
Spokane School District 81 School Board.
Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day, I've got a variety of different perspectives. I've got a lot of wisdom that comes out of a variety of different things. I mean, for starters, I'm a proud father of 2 students in the system. I've got a 14-year-old at LC. I've got a 6th grader at SAC, and they've gone through the system, and we fully believe in public education. The other thing is I've worked with educators in partnership for almost 2 decades, a lot of that being here in Spokane. And so understanding those concerns and those needs and a variety of different things. And then, maybe the last piece is to say, in terms of what I currently do, I can bring fiscal responsibility to the board. I can bring a voice that's lacking right now, a voice that says, this is what parents and students are. And at the end of the day, students are our primary client as school board members. So, I've got that perspective. And from my point, it can't be just a single perspective. It cannot just be one perspective that lends itself to the board. It's got to be someone who's so much more than that, who can bring a variety of different experiences and really will listen to the totality of the constituency.
All right.
Yeah.
A good listener. Thank you for being here today.
Ironically talked the whole time.
But that was the whole point of the video. So
For sure.
glad that you could come in for an interview.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
What does it mean to be awake? It means to truly understand the issues facing us and actively participate as a citizen in this country. One way you can do that is by voting your values based on the Word of God. We believe We Vote has done the research and provides you the information you need to make an informed decision on which candidates will champion our values and work for us. Now is the time to rise up, get involved, and vote. WeBelieveWeVote.com.
Hello, Spokane. This is Governor Mike Huckabee. I'm going to be speaking at We Believe, We Vote's October 2nd fundraiser. It's more important than ever for Christians to come together and to vote. I'm looking forward to seeing you on October the 2nd of this year. For tickets to the event, go to WeBelieveWeVote.com.